Hi, everyone. My name is Anthony Caruso III, and I am the publisher of the Capital Sports Report. I'm also the host of the Capital Sports Report Live. As always, I'm joined by longtime sports journalist Susan Wade, who writes for Thoughts Racing, Competition Plus, Auto Week, and um, Auto Week, Dragzine, Competition Plus, and Thoughts
Speed
Racing.
Sport News.
And Speed Sport News. Uh, I had lots of thought there. Tonight, we are joined by Krista Baldwin. She is the owner of Krista Baldwin Racing. She is this year. She bought the operation from the Greek, her grandfather, Chris Karamesines, and she raced in Gainesville, and she's going to be racing again this weekend in Charlotte. Welcome to the show tonight, Krista.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Hi, Krista.
Hi, Susan.
You raced for the first time in Gainesville as a team owner. Could you talk about what that was like for you?
Really expensive. um, Obviously, now I'm on the hook to pay for everything that this car does. So it's definitely an eye opening experience. But to actually hit the gas in a car that I own, and I get to do it with my friends and family, is just it's very, gosh, I feel so special, and I feel so blessed to be able to be in this position. Third generation driver, but also third generation team owner. And so just to carry on the tradition that my family has portrayed, I'm super excited about it. And it's definitely difficult because now I really have to be mindful of what I do on track. I mean, that's 3 seconds, and you got to make a decision if you keep your foot in it, if you pedal it, if you decide to shut the car off, or whatever it may be. That decision directly reflects to me in my pocket now. But obviously, I try to make the best decision, try to make the smartest decision, the smartest business decision. But I also have a lot of mentors out there that I'm able to rely on, be able to get some advice from. And so that's the cool part, is I'm super in a special place, and I would not change it for the world.
Well,
You
when you saw
Good.
Bobby Baldwin this weekend in the funny car final blow that car to smithereens, you had to be
Yes.
going, oh,
Oh
you
yeah,
probably
I
your wallet, right?
I felt everything that Bobby was feeling at the top end. I mean, I've blown up engines before, and it's really tough. And it just driving a that's one of the biggest things between a nitro funny car and a top fuel dragster, is at least when our engine blows, we don't have a $80,000 body on top of it that can go to smithereens. But props to the Bodie family. I mean, that was such a kick-ass thing to watch. I was there in Houston with Paul Lee's nitro funny car team, and just to watch him continue to progress. And that's the thing. And I was just talking to my team today. Uh, you know, the advantage of going to a hot racetrack like that. Literally, all Bobby had to do was go A to B, and that is what he did. And if that cylinder did not drop, or he didn't hit that bump in that racetrack in the right lane, and that cylinder did not jump, he was in front of Matt Hagan. I mean, insane. And I'm so excited for Bobby. We actually finished our crossover licenses together in St. Louis. And so that was a cool thing, is, you know, he's also carrying on the tradition. I'm carrying on the tradition. And now we're, buddies for life.
Did you see Amanda when Amanda asked him the last question in the interview after that explosion? She said, "And you were out in front of Matt," and he just went, "Huh," and he just backed away from her, and it was like you knew he was just gonna like burst into tears if he tried to even answer that question. I can't talk for him, so I don't know what he was thinking, but that had to hurt worse than anything.
Yeah, and it would have. I know for my experience, I'm sure it's the same for Bobby, but these cars are still so fast, and we're still learning. We're still trying to slow that car down for the experience that we are feeling. And so I totally understand that he had no clue that he was in front of Matt Hagan. He had no clue how close Matt Hagan was, because that is years and years of experience is, really knowing where the other person is on track. But like I said, I know exactly how he felt when that motor exploded. They're a small team like I am, and everything that goes wrong is definitely it's going to take us a while to rebuild. But I'm so proud of him. I mean, that was such a cool thing to witness and to do it in person. I mean, I was standing on the starting line when it all happened, so that was really fun to watch.
Did you? I'm sorry, Anthony. I don't even want to say something. I just want to jump in here and ask. Did you did you see what Tony Stewart did?
Oh,
I
where
don't know
he's
if you
gonna
saw.
give the helmet?
Yeah, he said buy him a helmet because he said they're gonna take that SFI sticker off that because he threw it down, But I thought that was pretty cool that he saw his passion.
Oh yeah, and it's someone that I mean, I've met Tony before, and of course I know Leah. But Tony is definitely a racer like we are, and he's absolutely, he has the passion that we all have, and that's really cool to see a new team owner come into the game, a new person that comes from a different discipline of motorsports, come in, and it just shows that how one wacky we are in the head for doing all of this, and two how passionate we are to get to live our dreams. And so, no, that is super cool that Tony Stewart's going to help Bobby Bodie with some new safety equipment. And especially after a concussion like that, I would definitely recommend a new helmet. You just know that's quite a hurting on your brain right there. So you just want to make sure the helmet's good. But no, that's all of it's cool. The whole thing is super cool.
It is.
Krista, you like I touched on a few minutes ago. You bought this team from your grandfather, who raced for a very very long time. We don't exactly know how old he is, but he raced until some believe like 90 years old. Could you talk about like following, like what it means to you to follow in this family tradition that you guys have to race and have this go on for so long as you guys have had?
Yes, I believe it's something like he's been racing for 70 years. Absolutely crazy. But this is what I know. This is what I grew up doing. This is what I go to the weekends. This is what I did when, spring break or summer break from school. I used to go on the road. I used to go hang out at the races. I used to, these not only my actual family there, but my racing family is there. And so to continue the tradition of what my grandpa has set out, uh, gosh, it's sometimes it gets in your head like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna uphold the Greek name. How am I gonna do this? How am I gonna do this professionally? How am I gonna do this? How he would want it to be done. And I think the transition from him owning the car to me owning the car, just bringing in that extra layer of professionalism and that extra layer of showing my personality, because we all know he has his personality and it speaks through what he's been doing for the last few years. And it just shows that if you put your mind to it, you can do it. And uh man, I just want to have fun like him for the next 70 years.
And when you got your license, you touched on this a few seconds ago. When you got your license in St. Louis, you had Jimmy Prock there, Bobby Lagana, and Austin Prock there as well to witness it and maybe sign off on your license as well.
Yeah, it was it was so fun. Uh, Obviously, I've been friends with the Procs for a long time. My mom and Jill Proc are best friends, and Austin and I, now that we get to share that category together. Actually, Austin drove my A fuel car before he jumped in the top fuel car, so I've known Austin for many years. And it's really cool to be able that so many people are supportive of me trying to make this venture and me trying to get into the top fuel world. And in that picture that I've posted before, I mean, Bobby and Dom Lagana, Jimmy Prock, Scott Graham, who's the crew chief on Pat Dagan's car, who used to be the crew chief on my dad's car. I've known him all my life. My grandpa and all my friends that helped me on the car, Anthony DeCero, Jake Sanders, Katie Butera, to be able to share that moment with them was super, super special. And it's cool that I want to do it, but they want me to do it as well. And that's the fun part is they want me to succeed as much as, anything that they're doing in their own lives. So for everyone to come out and to watch the license, it was a little nerve wracking because I was like, oh shoot, all these people are watching. Oh man, I hope I know how to do this. But the second that canopy came down on me, it was like second nature. And it's something that like I truly believe that I was meant to drive a top fuel dragster, and I could feel it in that moment. And I feel that every time I get into the car. I feel so comfortable.
Who signed off on your license?
My grandpa did, and Paul Lee.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Two people who've nurtured you from the beginning, right? So.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I said before, I've had a lot of success based off of what they helped me do. I mean, my grandpa showed me how to become a team owner, how to, drive these dragsters, but also Paul Lee has taught me how to be the businesswoman that I am, and to be, have that negotiative hat on yourself, and to be able to make smart decisions that are not only for this moment right now, but what is my 5-year plan. And so Paul's just been an instrumental part of my career, both on and off the track.
Yeah, and yes, go ahead, Anthony. I'm sorry, I interrupted you again.
This weekend, we touched on Gainesville a few minutes ago, but this weekend you returned to the track in Charlotte at ZMAX Dragway. What are your expectations when you suit up and compete this weekend?
So actually, I'm moving into. I had to make a pretty big business and team owner decision over the last couple of weeks since Gainesville. I had to get the car front half. Obviously it took me a long time to decide what I wanted to do with the car. Decided to have Don Schumacher Racing front half the car to a thicker wall tubing. So one, it's safer, and two, I believe there's going to be a ruling change in the next 6 months or so for next year's tubing spec. So I figure I get ahead of the curve. The biggest thing this weekend is I need to make a couple of passes, half track runs, not full runs, to make sure everything works. The car drives the way it's supposed to drive, because now that I've put a different front half on it, the car is going to have a totally different character when it leaves the starting line. So it's almost like the car changed. Now I'm going to have to change, and I have to learn how the car reacts to me hitting the gas. And when that clutch is coming in, how the car is going to react compared to what has been happening. And so this weekend, I hope my checkout runs go well, and I'm going to aim for a 385 to qualify for the race on Sunday.
So the first, like Q1 and maybe Q2, we're going to see planned shutoffs?
Yes. Yeah, you're going to see planned shutoffs just so I can get acclimated in it. And one thing that a lot of people don't understand is before Gainesville, I didn't race since Dallas of last year, which is in October. So that was 6 months of not being in the seat. And then, of course, Gainesville, we had horrible weather. I only made 2 runs, one qualifying pass, which I didn't even make it to the finish line because, it was 6 months since I drove the car. So I was like, you know what, we're just going to shut it off a little early, just make sure I know how to do everything. Qualified with a 386, which is an awesome number, especially for me shutting it off early. I can just imagine what the 1,000-foot number would have been. And then for me to go out there, first round against McLeod, I unfortunately encountered a clutch issue, and I broke a couple levers in my clutch pack. And so my day ended about 200 feet on the racetrack. But okay, so I only have like 1.5 runs since Dallas. I still need to get reacquainted with the car. But yeah, the first couple runs are just going to be planned shutoffs. Like I said, I just want to make sure everything works. This is coming, I'm still a small budget team. And so I want to make sure everything is perfect before I take it to the finish line, because the budget from the starting line to like 600 feet is different from a budget to 1,000 feet. A lot more things can happen in the last 400 feet of the racetrack. And so I just want to make sure I dot my I's, cross my T's before I go all the way to the finish line.
That's smart. Well, at least in Gainesville, you made the field. We had a couple of really stout championship contenders who didn't make that field.
Believe me, I was sweating bullets when I got out of the car. I got out the top end. They told me I ran 386. Cool. Nothing was wrong with the car. We came back. We scuffed a couple pistons, which is pretty normal. And then I'm waiting. And then they did the all-star thing. So I'm waiting even more because they had all the pre-race all-star stuff going on. I'm like, oh my gosh, these people that are championship cars are behind me, and I only ran a 386. So in my head, I'm like, these people are going to run 370s. They're going to go down to 360s. And when, one by one, the first pair go out, smoke tires. Second pair go out, they shake. Third pair go out, smoke tires again. I'm like, I might have a chance. I might have a chance because I knew that they were only going to make one qualifying run that day, just because it was going to get too cold the later we race. And so I'm like, man, I don't know. I wanted to puke in the staging lanes because I had no clue if I was going to make it or not. And then they said my name and it was all good.
Yeah, that was kind of surprising, though, not about you, but it was surprising that they didn't make it, so.
It is surprising, sure but just on like a tuning aspect, the air and the weather in Gainesville, we will never see that kind of weather on a racetrack ever again. Yay. It was that good. You could not make enough power or make enough, decisions to get down that racetrack because it was so good, and we barely see that anywhere. So it was a huge turning curve for all the crew chiefs out there.
This weekend, when you go to Charlotte, it's going to be the second 4-wide of the season. They had the first one in Las Vegas. The second one is this weekend. What is your impressions of the 4-wide racing? Do you like it or not like it?
Well, as a racer, my first 4-wide was last year in Charlotte. I made it to the semis. I think I kind of like it. As a spectator, it's confusing. I mean, it's hard to watch 4 cars at once and figure out like which light goes to which person, and it gets super confusing. But it's still a phenomenon that I would highly recommend for anyone. I mean, there's 44,000 horsepower hitting the gas at the same time in the same place. It's so loud, and it's unlike any other drag racing experience. So, yes and no, I like it. I mean, it's cool. It's a cool thing. I wouldn't do it all the time. So doing it twice a year is totally cool with me. As a small team like I am, the 4-wide is really enticing because, like I said, I can win first round and I technically go to the semis. All I got to do is come in second place and I can make it to the next round. So that, for obvious reasons, it's really enticing.
Do you think two is enough, or do you think that we kind of do too much of them?
I think two a year is enough. I think that's it's kind of like when NASCAR goes to the dirt on Bristol. I mean, you love your regular racetrack, but then you put it on the dirt and it's wild. Like this year, actually, me and my friends watched it on TV and it was pretty entertaining. But you also want to go back to, the performance of the car and how fast you can get down the racetrack and how quick the drivers are to respond. And so I like it to a point. I don't think we could do any more than 2 races a year, but I enjoy it.
It can be cheaper, I guess. You have one fewer round.
Yes, it is cheaper, sort of. Let me tell you why. It's cheaper in the sense it's one less round on Sunday. It's not cheaper in the sense that there's actually 4 qualifying sessions this weekend.
Oh.
So sense. Technically you're doing the same amount of runs. It just depends on which day you're doing them on.
That's true. Well, when you're in the car, nothing seems loud at all, probably when you're in the car, but I'm sure when Paul runs, you've stood behind him, right? Mm-hmm. So you've experienced 4-wide, 44,000 horsepower from inside the car and outside the car right there. So what was that weird to experience it outside the car?
Yes. It's funny, not just four wide, but any racing in general. Uh, Paul went out first round this weekend. His 397 got beat by 392 by Cruz, which 397, everything came out clean. Everything came out perfect. It's just a step in the right direction. And it was almost like we won the race just getting that 397 run in because we've been struggling a little bit on that team. But second round, Paul and I walked up to the starting line and we were watching. And it literally gives me goosebumps watching a Top Fuel car go down the racetrack because I literally can think like, okay, I know exactly what they're doing. I know what they're seeing. I know what they're looking at. I know that the pump's coming on, the clutch is out, and they're ready to rock. And just the thought of me, that's been watching drag racing for 28 years, does that. And it still gets me so excited, so excited. Especially, I'm still a spectator at heart. I still love this racing with all my heart, and I will for the rest of my life. And I still get goosebumps knowing that I do that.
But it's so weird because you're so exactly the opposite of like Alexis DeJoria, because when she wasn't racing, she showed up at the Dallas race and she said, and everybody was all getting ready, getting busy to get up to the starting line, and she said, or to the staging lanes, and she said, and then I'm sitting there thinking, ugh, I got to sit and watch. So, do you have those same feelings though too?
I do. I definitely get what do you call it? FOMO, fear of missing out. Like I get that a lot. But just my how much I love the sport and how much I understand more. The crazy thing is that driving the car is one thing, but it's everything else that's really hard as a team owner and as a driver. And so whenever I go up there to watch someone else in the Top Fuel class make a run, I am learning their it just I don't know. I like all things racing, so
Outside of this weekend in Charlotte, how many more races are you slated to do for the rest of the season? Are you allowed to elaborate, or you're just gonna keep that close to the vest?
my goal was 10 this year. So if I stick with my goal, I'll have 8 more races after Charlotte. Uh, 10 is very aggressive. It's very ambitious to make 10 races, especially, it's me and my friends working on the car on the weekend. And sometimes we get busy, and I still, as you guys know, have a not 9 to 5, which is really an everyday job. Every hour, there's no stopping. But I still have duties at McLeod, Silver Sport, and FTI that I have to do, and still being on the road with Paul's team as the general manager and making sure that his crew is comfortable, he's comfortable at his racing and all that stuff. So sometimes it gets difficult to balance it all, but like I said, I have some really great friends that believe in me and they help me. And so going to 10 races this year, it was a process that I talked with them, and we have a pretty good plan. One of the thought process I have is depending on what time of the year each race is. Obviously, we saw it this weekend. The hotter the racetrack, the better the variable is. The hotter the racetrack, if I just go A to B, I have a much bigger chance of winning because another car is going to smoke the tires or shake or whatever it may be doing. So taking that into consideration, I put in a lot of thought of what our schedule is. And obviously things change, things happen. I was actually supposed to go down to Houston this weekend, but the front half came along, and so I had to I had to make a decision. Uh, but this weekend's gonna be rough. It's gonna be one of the tougher weekends. I was just talking to everyone on my team this morning, saying, "Hey, it's gonna be tough. There's no like sitting ducks on the entry list. Every car that's on the entry list this weekend is a 370 or better car. So we better have our stuff together to battle it out with them."
Well, it really is. It really is we say it every year. Every year, everybody in every class says, "Oh, this is the toughest year." But I really think that's really true this year.
It is. It is.
Until
It just the quality of the equipment that people are buying and the investment that people are making and the drivers that are coming on back on board. I mean, shoot, Austin Prock is a master at the tree, and Alex Laughlin is no second best either. So it just and Tony Schumacher coming back. I'm like, are you kidding me? You gotta come back now. You're making it way harder on me. But it's good to see it. It just adds that much more spice and flavor to the top fuel class, and especially with all the different personalities. I mean, all of us have. We're all different, and so it's fun to see how we interact in the staging lanes and how we interact with each other. And I've been really fortunate that NHRA gifted me with a weekly vlog this year, and so every week at the racetrack, I walk around and vlog people. And this weekend, the question was, what's bigger in Texas? And there's some pretty funny answers that you guys will see in a couple of days when Nikki posts it. So, but it's fun. Like I enjoy it, and it just adds that much more to the class, to the pro classes in general. I mean, shoot, look at Cameron Caruso and Erica. Girl power right there.
I know
that was so cool.
It was like ladies' night Friday. I mean, when you had women being 1 and 2 in pro stock bike. They were 1 and 2, not just 1, but 1 and 2. And then you had Brittany, and then race day. Only 2 women really had a great day because Alexis crashed and Angie's bike broke and Karen didn't make it all the way to the final, and just it didn't turn out to be ladies' weekend entirely, but it did have 2 women on the podium. So
yeah, and to get to that ladies' weekend, it's coming. Like I have a feeling sometime this year, especially with Camry and Erica, and then the pro stock bike chicks that are crazy because I would never drive or ride a bike that goes 200 miles an hour. They're absolutely insane.
But then they call you crazy for doing what you do.
Yeah, but I'm in a cocoon. Like I'm in a cage. I have a fire suit on. I'm belted to the car. They are just like out there willy nilly. Like, oh no.
Except for the thing that they attach to their wrist.
Yes. Like when their hand goes when their hand flies off the bike is when the bike shuts off. Oh, I don't know.
I've never ridden a motorcycle in my life either. I mean, just on the street, never done it. So I can't imagine what they're doing.
More props to them, that's for sure.
Yeah, really. Yeah, no kidding. And more props when you think about it to Gianna, who got back on the darn thing after her accident. That's really brave.
Absolutely. I mean, for her to take a tumble like that and another couple of weeks go by to get back right on the bike, that shows a lot of courage right there. And more power to her. It sucks that she broke her foot and she had to sit out for a little bit of the season, but I'm excited to see her come back as a married woman because she just got married. But it's fun with the Salinas girls too. I mean, I'm good friends with Jasmine. I helped her learn how to drive an A-Fuel car. She drove my A-Fuel car a couple of years ago, and so we got pretty close. And they're a great family. I like racing with all of them. So
except her dad beat you at Gainesville, right?
I meant like I like racing with all the girls in the family, not the boy.
Well, Jasmine is pretty indestructible as well. She had her big blowover in Gainesville a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah, I mean it. And one of the things last night in the airport, because everyone in Brownsburg flies on the same airplane when you go to a racetrack, so we all see each other in the airport, and we call it the Brownsburg Express. And there was probably like 40 of us on that plane, right? So we're all sitting there chatting with each other, and crew guys are there. Antron was there. Sean Langdon was there. I mean, everyone was on this flight. And I was talking to one of the crew guys and on another top fuel team, and he was asking me like, so our driver is not totally getting it, and they're like, he's having some issues. And I'm like, you know what? the driving the car is one thing. It's the mentality, the mental strain of driving this rocket ship on land, which is literally what it is. It's a ticking time bomb that we are trying to finesse down 1,000 feet as quickly as we can. It takes a lot of like not brain power, just like mental stimulation, and just the fact that I can literally sit here and talk to you in 10 minutes of what a 3.86-second run was, because that's how much stuff is happening to us, to our bodies, to, the challenge of, fighting the racetrack, fighting the motor, fighting the car going one way instead of going the other way. And so it's a mental thing that a lot of our fans don't understand, is that we have to take what we have now and just like multiply it. I mean, you're going 330 miles an hour, which is absolutely mind-boggling to the average human being. But for the Salinas girls to get back into that and to overcome that, for Leah to overcome it, for Alexis to overcome it, Erica after that big fire in Promod, for her to overcome it, it's you have to be mentally strong to do this.
How do you
Especially
prepare
fire.
to do that? Because I've seen like Antron, he goes to like this exercise place and he would like throw like stuff on the wall and like tap these. There's like these uh, things that pop up on the wall and like you gotta go whack them and stuff. Like, how do you prepare to like drive one of these beasts?
You literally drive by the seat of your pants. I mean, I said earlier, I have 3.8 seconds to make a financial decision and a safety decision on my part. Within that split second, within 200 feet, like take for instance in Gainesville, I hit the gas. I saw the front end come up. I'm like, okay, everything's going good. It gets to past 60 feet, and then I could feel something was starting to happen, and I just so happened. As I was feeling it, it was already breaking the clutch lever, and then the engine RPM goes skyrocketing to like 8,000 RPM. And I was lucky enough that I caught it quick enough, and I didn't hydraulic the car or anything like that. But it's that type of decision making on the edge of your seat that you have to do. And so all of the exercises that you see, a lot of the pit fit training, and all these drivers get to do, it's just another mental stimulation, and it tries to emulate what's happening in the car. And I always say this with like the reaction trees, like all the practice trees and things like that. Like, yeah, I could hit 50, 60 lights on that practice tree, but you know what? It does not have the car rumbling. It doesn't have, making sure you have oil pressure before you stage the car, and making sure you put the fuel pump at the right size, and making sure that the guy on the other lane or girl
She froze,
to
and that's come
You're
back.
cutting out.
oh, are we good? Are we good now?
Yep. Go
I
ahead.
Now
cut
you
out
are.
there for a second.
Yeah.
It's technology. It
But
happens.
it's okay. It all happens. But just it's you got to be physically fit and mentally fit to drive this car.
I got to tell you that the International Council of Motorsport Sciences, I've been a member, and I've been watching their things and their seminars or webinars, and they talked about, one that fascinated me was sleep. And that's another thing. I don't think we think enough about how we think, oh, we can do it. And if you have to thrash on your car overnight or something, and then the crew, everybody's a little bit sleep deprived, and that actually has an effect on you.
Oh yeah, it
You don't
does.
think about it. It's not something we think about as much. But
It does, and that's the big thing. Some of the bigger teams have the luxury of the driver can go home because their duty at the track is to drive that car. For the smaller teams like myself, my duty is not only to drive the car; it's to make sure my car is being put back together. And so eventually I will get to that point. But right now that's the hustle that you have to do. And I've always said that whenever I taught someone to drive the A fuel car, through mine and Anthony's Nitro University, I always tell them, I'm like, you know what? You need to learn what's happening when you hit the gas. You need to learn how the clutch comes in. How does the cylinders work? How do the pistons fire? Why does the gasket change matter? And what does a blower do? And what does the injector do? And you know that I am grateful that I have taken the time to learn and to work on the car before I actually drove the car, because now I can intelligently tell someone, hey, you know what? When I got out there, I felt this, and I'm pretty sure it came from the right side of the motor. So it was right when the clutch was coming in. So I can able to communicate with my crew chiefs a lot easier. But it goes back to, that the mental strength that you have to have is to remember what's happening behind you, but remember to drive that car and also try and get a good night's sleep. And hopefully your crew has everything put together so you don't blow up. It's all this coming to a head in 4 seconds.
And that's so. I think most drag racers seem to be able to communicate to their crew chief what is happening in the car. I remember years ago, Clinton Bronner, who was a outstanding IndyCar chief mechanic, he he gave Mario Andretti and AJ Foyt their first rides, and he said, like, Mario could tell you everything that was going on with the car. I mean, just as a young kid, he knew everything that was. I mean, he could really communicate. But like Eddie Sachs, I mean, he's such a name from the past. I don't know if you've ever heard of Eddie Sachs, but he said I could have left half the car off and he would have never known the difference. He didn't know anything about the mechanics of a car. You can probably get by with that a little more in IndyCar, maybe in NASCAR. I don't know that much about NASCAR, relationship and dynamics between the driver and the crew chief, but I think most drag racers are pretty in tune with their cars, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all started with, your 10-second car going down the racetrack because that's what we had and that's what we had. Run what you brung, and you can make this change on your motor and this change, and it'll result in this fashion, and it will go that much faster, or maybe you'll scrub off ET, whatever it may be. Like, we've all started in a lot. Like, not all of us start in Top Fuel. We all started in a different car that led us to Top Fuel. So, but yeah, I mean, we're all mechanically inclined. And so that's like to tie in the corporate America pitch of this is that, like, our customers and our fans and our, all the members of the NHRA, we're blue collar people. We want to learn how to make this machine go so much faster and to win a race. Bottom line. And so we will pick up whatever, our favorite drivers or our favorite mechanics are pushing.
Boy.
Krista, your mother, Paula, has watched her father, her husband, your late father, and now you race. What's it like for her to see everyone race in the family?
I'm definitely her favorite. Obviously. She's been around this all her life as well, and she's super excited, and I can definitely tell she's still my mom, and she gets nervous before I get in the car. She tells me, but she also knows that she has the confidence in my ability to drive this car and my ability to, represent our family well. And she's my biggest supporter, and she absolutely loves that I am doing this. And even though sometimes she gets a little mini heart attack at the starting line, she's also, one of my favorite pictures that I have of us is after I ran my 385 in Charlotte last year, which was the fastest I've ever gone. It's the fastest the car has ever gone. And I was actually, at that moment, I was the fastest in the family. She jumped in the tow vehicle, came up to the finish line to come pick me up, and she got out of the car and she's bawling and she is so excited, and she, like, you could just see that she was beaming with pride. And I have a photo of that moment, and that's like one of the coolest parts. And one of my favorite videos, it was from her phone. It was when I getting my license in St. Louis. It was my second run. And you know, moms with technology, she's like holding her phone like this, like vertical, right? I can hear her, like I'm starting to stage the car. She's like, come on, baby, come on. I hit the gas, I go out there, I run a 399, which was something that we never thought I would have been able to do. Go out there, run a 399.
Oh,
We lost her.
I want to hear the rest of the
Like,
story.
where did she run? It's
Oh, here she comes.
better, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
now-
we hear
now?
you.
yeah.
There you go.
And when I ran that 399, she was so excited, and she knows that she watched my dad, you know, come with his passion, and this is what he wanted to do. And she says to me all the time that I'm so like my dad, and I so do a lot of the same things that he does, and just that we just want to race. We want to race so bad that we will make it work no matter what. And so she's pretty proud. It's fun. It's fun doing it with her. That's for sure.
You cut out there for a minute, so I was thinking you were going to say, and my mom was holding the camera, and she didn't realize she was taking a picture of herself, so you could see her reaction. So no, I didn't know that's
No.
where you were going.
No, she was filming the car, but you can just you can hear her like walk around, and like she was just so excited. She was crying, and she's like, "Oh, my
I know what it's like to be behind one of those top fuel dragsters. It's pretty insane. It's like the jolt that you feel, and trying to record something is pretty hard. But
Yeah.
I've done it.
Especially with like, you know, my first time going down the track in the top fuel car. She was not ready for it.
Oh, really? Well, you mean was she fearful? Is that you mean she was afraid for you?
She was pretty scared. I mean,
Really?
she was pretty nervous, but she was trying to like not make me nervous, but I was already like, what am I doing? You know? Like I had so many emotions going through my head. But at the end she's super excited.
You know, you talked about emotions, and I think it's really interesting because I know that Erica said when she was doing her post race interview up in the media center at Houston, she said something like, "I told Camry, now don't cry because if you cry, you know, you can go do it in your trailer because you don't want people to see." And it's like I'm thinking, and poor Angel, she's taking it on the chin because she does cry. She's emotional. I mean, you're supposed to be emotional. And how do you stop? I mean, how do you stop being emotional? I don't know that you can turn that off, or you should. Maybe it's a good thing that people show emotion, you know?
I think it is. I think it is a good thing to show it. I mean, there was this huge debate about what Bobby Bodie and his emotion that was emulating after that run last night. But people don't understand the adrenaline that is pumping through us. It's literally like we just ran a marathon and we are out of breath at the top end. And your adrenaline is going so far, it's so fast, it's so hard that like it's hard to, you know, realize what you just did and take into account like, oh my god, I just went 330 miles an hour. Oh my god, I just did this, I did that, I just won my race, I just blew up everything that my family tried to work for, you know? And so I don't think we need to be scared of showing our emotion. I mean, you guys have seen me get out of the car at the top end, and I literally jump with pride of like how excited I am to drive this car, and I take every opportunity I can to do it. But I don't think it's a bad thing to show emotion. And yes, the crying thing, it sometimes it just happens. Like
Yeah.
I've been so pumped up on adrenaline that it just happens, and that is like my body's release for what's
Yeah.
happening inside of me. And so, you know, there's been a few times in the e-fuel car where people have messed with me and I get really mad and I get really emotional. And it just, sometimes I think like, wow, how do people do this all the time? But the more runs you make, the more confident you are in your car. I hope I would never reel in my emotions because the fans, every fan that comes up to me is one, we love your cheetah print on your car. to we love your reaction when you get out of the car at the top end. So I feel like that's what people want to see is like, that's my genuine reaction of what just happened. So
Well,
I,
I think that's what the NHRA would like for you to show because it shows on TV that hey, this is a cool thing. Our sport is cool. If you just act like, no big deal. I don't know
And
how
it
I
gets
don't know how
them
guys.
viewers.
What's that?
It gets them viewers.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I didn't have any problem with Bobby Bodie throwing his stuff down. He's only costing himself if he messes up.
yeah,
Well, in this case, he got a free helmet, but normally, I mean, it's on you. The expense is on you if you mess up something. But like, I don't know. You want somebody to show passion of some kind, you
yeah,
know?
you do. And that's the biggest thing is that a lot of people have asked me like the future of NHRA and what I am going to do to propel this future of NHRA. And I'm like, well, that's a lot of pressure right there. I'm just doing it because I love it. But the future is that we have to show that we are human. I mean, we can't just be robots in that car. We have to show that a physical person is getting in this, 7G machine, um, and it's gonna wreak havoc on your body. Like people don't understand that. Like we work out so we can control the car going down the track, but it's also that G force that we get hit with, and it just I don't know. I mean, I'm all about showing the emotion, like I said, and I think that's gonna be the proponent of you know when you watch, and I get this a lot. I actually got it a lot last year. They're like, whenever we saw you on TV, we knew that was you. And I'm like, well, yeah, wait till you meet me in person. But but like it just you got to show your personality, and that's what's gonna attract more fans. Like, wow, this chick's crazy with her crazy hair, and she gets out of the car, and there's like a helmet print on her helmet on her forehead, and she's yelling at the TV. Like, I don't know.
But do you worry about as a woman that you're going to be judged more harshly than a male driver would for whatever your emotion might be, whether it's anger or excitement or tears or whatever it is? I mean, do you worry that that women are judged differently than the male athletes, the male drivers?
I think in years past that is true. We were just talking about before we got on this phone call, like Melanie Troxel, and going back to even before that. I mean, there was only a couple women doing this, and so I
Mhm.
think they were judged a lot harsher of what happens. But my biggest thing is that you got to show like who you are, and if you are a jerk and you are a robot, then that's who you are. And but I'm not going to slow down my role to conform to what you're doing. Like I'm going to continue on my path to, be excited. And that's another thing is that a lot of the drivers I feel and people that I've talked to, they forget what we are doing. They forget the phenomenon that we are taking place right now. Like 330 miles an hour in a land rocket. And so you got to go back to the basics on that. Like you just got to take in an appreciation that you are able to be healthy enough to drive this monster of a machine and to have fun and to put your heart and soul into this and have the hustle to get the marketing dollars to go do this to put on a show for the fans. And so sometimes I feel like some of the bigger drivers forget that. Except for Antron, he's always animated.
I know. He's got more energy, doesn't he? That's
Yes.
good. Yeah.
Krista, you not only have your race team that you own, you mentioned that you're the GM of Polly's Nitro Funny Car team. You also work for his two companies, McLeod and FTI Performance. How do you juggle everything?
um, the biggest thing is that when I was a kid, I knew I wanted to drive a race car. How was I going to do it? I had no clue. And then I got into the position to drive a front engine dragster, and then that just set the hook a little bit deeper. And then I met Paul Lee. He was driving Gary Dentrup's Nitro Funny car. Gary just had like a knee operation, so Paul filled in for him in Sonoma. my family and the Denshams have been friends for years. And then I met Paul Lee, and I explained to him what I wanted to do. I'm going to college for public relations and photography. I want to do something out here. I might not be able to drive, but I want to at least participate in the sport that I love. And I thought I could be the PR person. I could bring in marketing dollars. I can do something for a race team. Um, and then I started an internship with him, which led into the day I graduated college. He offered me a full time job at McLeod as the creative director. So I've been doing that ever since. And then, of course, he brought on FTI Performance a couple years ago. We also brought on Silver Sport Transmissions. And so now we have 3 companies within the Wart Automotive Group, and I oversee all the marketing for all 3 of them. And then, like you said, I do all the general manager position on Paul's Nitro Funny Car team. But what keeps me going is I get to hit the gas in a top fuel car. I am working towards that goal. Like all of the long hours and the hardships that I have throughout the week, I just have to remember that I am working towards the goal of driving a top fuel car. And if it weren't for Paul, I definitely would not be able to drive a top fuel car.
So what exactly does I love the title, creative director. What do you get to do? Is it I mean, you get to really be creative?
Absolutely, I do. Side note on the job title. So I've been obsessed with Mad Men, the TV show, for years. Like I watch it religiously. I've watched it 4 times through. Like I love it. And Don Draper was the creative director at his firm. And I'm like, you know what? Paul, can I change my title to creative director? He's like, I don't really care what you call yourself. Just do the job. So I changed my title to creative director. But yes, I get to make ads, and I get to be in charge of the sponsorship program, and I get to do all the outreach programs and the trade shows and the car shows and the races that we all go to. I get to coordinate all of that, and I also get to portray a vision of what the branding is to the people and to the consumers and to our customers. And so that right there is like a huge, like I'm super excited about that because I get to, Paul's very cool boss. He lets me take some creative, what do you call it, freelance things. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but he knows that I have the mentality of keeping the brand of all 3 companies in the right realm and to continue to sell products to all of them. And it just so happens that they're all drivetrain companies and half of them are racing companies. And so I could just really relate to all of the customers. And so that's a cool thing. And, you know, everything from social media to, you know, the ads that you see in Drag Illustrator or Complex or whatever it may be, I get to be the creative mind behind that.
That's awesome. I got to tell everybody who's watching, this girl knows her stuff because we visited at SEMA's MPMC conference, which was that year. It was virtual, and I asked you about FTI and what was going on, and you put it in layman's terms because I'm a rum dum when it comes to mechanical things. I'm not mechanical, and but you explain what they do, and you know your stuff. I mean, how you keep all that, you know, automotive stuff. That sounds really stupid, but I wouldn't know how to explain all that stuff. It's very technical, and you have it all down pat. So you're very, very good at that. So
well, thank you. I appreciate that. One of the coolest things that Brian Loans has ever said on TV, he's like, and this girl talks about clutches, and I think she can talk about clutches more than any man in this room. He said that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Last week we had some very, very big news that came out towards the end of the week. And it was announced that Pro Stock driver and his family, the Koreskis, had bought Maple Grove Raceway. And Paul Lee, for those that don't know and who are watching this, and well, I do know, Susan knows, and Krista, you do know, that Paul Lee, while he resides in California today, he actually grew up here in New Jersey, where I presently live, and raced at ATCO and probably Old Bridge Township Raceway Park. So Maple Grove Raceway has a special meaning to him because it was close. What is your thoughts on drag racers keeping the drag strip in the family, so to speak, and not allowing it to go away like we see with a lot of tracks that we just recently lost? Palm Beach International Raceway this past weekend is probably going to be sold to developers or warehouses.
Yeah, it's great what the Koreskis are doing. I mean, they are true drag racers through and through. I mean, shoot, they're still fielding a pro stock car right now, and so for them to do that and for them to be able to, promote that racetrack the way it needs to be promoted is going to be a huge marketing tool for them. They know what that the basis of NHRA is all about, the sportsmen and also, your regular classes or your regular streetcar classes. And so to promote and make an excitement around the events that happen at a drag strip is going to be really exciting to watch it unfold, especially in that part of the country where we've lost a few racetracks along the way. And like you said, Paul calls that home now. That's his home track. It's the closest national event to Jersey and Philly, and so he loves it. He's been friends with Kenny Koreski for a long time. They do business together. And so it's going to be really interesting, the stance and but not only the stance, but also the events that are going to come into the track, because they know what's going to draw. Like, they know what the cars are going to come in, and they know if they promote it to the youth that you can go out there with your regular street car, and you don't even have to have a license to drive on the street. You could drive it on the racetrack. That's what's going to create more drag racing fans in today's youth. So I think it's a great idea.
Speaking of Maple Grove, in a few weeks, they host the Street Outlaws No Prep Kings third event of the season. I don't know if you get to watch them, but this past weekend they were in Virginia, and they're going to be in Maple Grove. What's your thought on that drag racing category that's becoming so popular today?
So popular. And let me tell you, all of our products get used in those race cars.
We lost you there for a second. Oh, now you're back.
But as a professional in the Wharton Automotive Group, I think it's great because they're all using our products. So it's a good push for us. But I mean, it shows that drag racing can be adaptable for all kinds of people, all kinds of budgets, all kinds of cars, all kinds of personalities, all kinds of TV shows. It just shows that there's another asset that could be had on the drag strip. And so I just wish that there was more shows. I always said that like NHRA needs to have a show like Drive to Survive to just showcase like the personalities, and that's what's going to bring people in. I mean, shoot, I've been an F1 fan for a while, but the Drive to Survive, that's like an insight that, the world doesn't know unless you're like a true diehard F1 fan. And so to have more TV shows and more media covering things that happen on a drag strip in drag racing, I mean, it can only be good things to come.
Well, speaking of TV shows, this was 15 years ago now. I think A&E had like the Driving Force with John Force's family. That was a long, long time ago.
It was a long time ago, but I definitely remember watching it as a kid.
That was pretty good. But I know we're running out of time here, but I wanted to get in the last question too. About, do you as a actually, I was going to ask you about F1 if you were going to watch it, but it sounds like you kind of like that, so that'll be cool. But as a part timer, that's kind of a cool trend now, that it's not like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm a part timer. It's like, yeah, I'm a part timer. It's like we see Billy Torrance, you see TJ Zizzo, you got Trip Tatum winning at Gainesville, and he's a part timer. You got Buddy Hull. You got a lot of. Doug Foley right now wants to be full time, but he's a part timer. He made the finals in Gainesville, so I mean, part timers can excel. That's a cool thing for you, right?
Absolutely. Shoot, like I've watched my grandpa do it for years and years and years. But yeah, to do it on a part-time level is still an astronomical on take of responsibility. I could only imagine what to do it full time could be. But part time, it shows that, I'm doing this because I love it, not because it's a job. And it's not a job for me, it's a hobby for me. Hopefully, eventually, it becomes a job for me. But it just shows that, like, normal people, I mean, I don't live fancy anywhere. I live in Indiana, like I have a regular somewhat regular 9 to 5 job. Uh, and you know what? I don't drive the super flashy cars. I don't do any of that. I'm literally doing it because I love the sport and I love the feeling I get on driving a top fuel car. And so that just, I think we relate a little bit more to our customers and to our fans because we do have our 9 to 5 jobs. Like, I'm gonna race Sunday night, but I also have to drive all night to get back to my job. So I gotta make some sacrifices on it, but I wouldn't change it for the world unless I get like a full-time deal, get like 2 trailers with it, and I get a paycheck for doing it. I will change it for
You're
that.
bougie now. What is our job?
Krista, you talked about Formula One. This year, there's going to be 2 Formula One races in the United States, Coda and Miami. Miami's next in the schedule, I think, in like a week or 2.
Tweaks.
Then next year, they announced, Amanda Busick announced that they're going to have Las Vegas next year. What is your thoughts on Formula One coming over here to the United States, where it's a different kind of sport for the motorsports enthusiasts that like racing?
I think it's a great thing. I mean, to bring more sports into America is going to be great. The thing is that there's so many different motorsports out there, whether NASCAR, IndyCar, Formula road racing, but we're all the same at the end of the day. Like, we all want to see these cars go fast and show their top performance, and no matter who it is, we're going to root for that person. But for them to come to America, I think it's a great way to expand the minds of, wow, this happens. Wow, these cars go 200 miles an hour into a corner. Wow, these cars go 330 miles an hour going down the drag strip. It just brings another set of eyes and another layer of fans. And so if they start liking F1, then hopefully they start liking more motorsports. And hopefully they start, you know what, hey, I'm going to get that car in the garage and soup it up and put a McLeod clutch on it. And, and, just take it to either, a time attack race or a drift event or a drag event. And so it just continues to, as an industry person in the aftermarket, I think it's a great thing. As a racer, shoot, I want to go to Miami so bad to go watch this. Like, it's going to be fun.
We'll go next year.
Yes, I hope so.
Yeah, no, you and me, we'll go.
Yes.
We'll do a media blitz. Blitz.
Yes, I would absolutely love it. And like I said, it also ties into going back to like a TV show like Drive to Survive. Shoot, that blew up Formula One in the United States. I mean, obviously Formula One is number 1 in the world, but to do it in the United States where that we have so many other options of motorsports it just shows that if we put together a film crew and a director to showcase what we can do, just think of how many more eyes we could have on drag racing.
Well, I was lobbying with Alexis to encouraging her to see if she could get in there and do a big smoky burnout down the strip in Las Vegas or something, just get the crowd just to show off. And she said, maybe we could at least get the car to be there and we could do some throttle wax or something, but something that you got to take that opportunity to show off, drag racing to some of these other, fans of other disciplines.
Absolutely. I mean, the course that they showed for Las Vegas, like, it's going to go straight down Las Vegas Boulevard.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, I think we should get with Vegas and show them that, hey, you need to have a nitro funny car, nitro dragster, take a rip down the street and just see what happens.
I like it.
It'll be really cool.
Yeah, I've been writing about it, so maybe you all can get out there and lobby for it, So
yes. To anyone watching, I am so in to do a burnout in Las Vegas.
Las Vegas Motor Speedway, you hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You guys have the connections there, so we just had Randy Cannon on last week, and we talked about the Vegas the motorsports scene in Las Vegas. So we talked a lot about the F1 race coming because it hasn't been there since 1982 in Las Vegas, but we had the Caesar's Palace Grand Prix.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Randy's written a book about it. We'll plug his book, Caesar's Palace Grand Prix. So,
Krista, you are one of the young pro drag racers in the sport. And we talked a few years ago with Tanner Gray in Pro Stock, and he unfortunately left the sport because he said that the industry did not do much for the young drivers. As one of the young drivers in the sport today, could you talk about being the next generation in the sport? Did we lose you? I don't know.
you're
Did we
frozen.
lose? Oh, there you go.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Being the next gen in the sport, Tanner has a point to an extent. Yes, I do believe when he was campaigning to do the Pro Stock Championship, we didn't leverage it as much as we can. Let me step back from here. As a creative person in the industry, no, we did not leverage it enough. We need to showcase that, it goes back to showing off the personalities. I mean, age is a number, but it is pretty remarkable what Tanner was able to accomplish. But yeah, we have to have some fresh ideas on how to sell this to America's youth. And so to be one of the people on the forefront of this, push of the next gen, one, it's crazy for me to think about it, but I'm super excited to do it. And I think, we're making steps to making it better. I mean, just with me and Austin and Alex and, Leah's still within this age range as well. For us to take the social media, that's a huge thing. Like, you just got to continue to push that social media. I mean, shoot, I posted a video and it got like 100,000 views, which is crazy. But I also got that much more followers. And so just to continue to showcase different things, and you have to be not afraid to take risks on the creative side. And, personally, I've taken risks on a lot of the branding that I've done, and it has worked out in the end. And so for NHRA, we'll work together. They ask me my opinion a lot, more than I think a lot of people know. We collaborate on a lot of things, and we actually came up with this vlog idea just because they enjoy that I know so many people out at the racetrack, and I literally will walk up to anyone and ask them a question. And so I think it's things like that we just continue to put our heads together and brainstorm. Okay, how are we going to get more eyes to the sport? How are we going to get the youth to like a nitro funny car or a nitro dragster or a pro stock car or pro stock motorcycle or any of the sportsman classes? I mean, shoot, you can still take a top alcohol dragster, 4,000 horsepower machine, 280 miles an hour. It's still mind boggling what they do. Believe me, I know, I did it. And so it's an honor to be part of the next gen. And you got to think about it. I mean, my grandpa was part of the first gen of NHRA drag racing, and the things that he did for the sport, just on a technological advancement, but also, his character always shone through on everything that he did. And he is the Greek. Like, everyone knows him as the Greek. That is his personality. That is how he is at home. That's how he is when I call him.
We lost you.
She'll come back.
Yeah. Hopefully.
I'm here.
Yay.
Sorry.
Technology is great when it works.
You talk about your grandfather and being the Greek, and then you went out.
Okay. But yeah, just he is the Greek, and that is the name that he built for himself, and that's the brand he built, and that's the brand that brought in other people from NHRA or non-NHRA people to come to the events and show, what is this thing called a dragster? We don't even know what it's called. It's called a rail car at this point in time. Going 200 miles an hour is just, was unheard of back in 1960. So we got to go back to the basics as well. Like we got to show off like how crazy this is, and we have to showcase, between your regular vehicle, be it, a regular car or be an electric vehicle, we have to show how much more power we're making to make this vehicle go. And I get a lot of flack on the electrical cars as well. I get asked that a lot, especially at SEMA and PRI and, all kinds of places. For us personally, the drivetrain, you can have an electric car, but you still need a drivetrain to power that car down the track. So it works for us. But I would hope to educate people that yes, electrical cars are cool in their own way, but also, having firing cylinders is still cool in its own way as well. Like there's room for both of us on this planet. And so we just got to show back like one of the best videos I've watched is from Donut Media, and they are able to take what a top fuel dragster is and put it in layman's terms so that the average person can figure it out. Like, wow, this car is accelerating that much more faster than my Toyota Corolla or whatever you're driving on the street. So it's things like that we just need to parallel the real world to the drag racing world.
Well, it's not my idea. I wish it were, but Terry McMillan came up with it, and I just love this idea. He said, put a social media influencer or somebody who's totally social media savvy, these young kids. I mean, put a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, put them on the board of directors of the NHRA. Not a bad idea, So I love the idea. They won't do it probably, but
no, it's a great idea. It just they shouldn't be afraid to do that as well.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is like they shouldn't be afraid to bring in some new blood to what are your perspective on what we're doing? How would you sell this to, kids your age? So that's a great idea too.
Yeah. I wish it were mine, but it wasn't.
Well, Krista, thank you for your time tonight. Outside of being on Facebook Live right now and YouTube Live right now, this video will be uploaded onto Rumble, our Rumble page, also onto BitChute, and also converted into a podcast on Anchor.fm in the coming days. Krista, thanks again for joining us tonight on the Capital Sports Report Live, and good luck this weekend at Charlotte, and maybe the rest of the and good luck the rest of the season. Maybe I will see you if you come to Maple Grove, because that, like I said, is my home track now since they got rid of Bridge Township Raceway Park. So good luck the rest of the season. And
We'll be watching you. That was fun. We had a good time. So come back again when you get unfrozen.
I will. Thank you. Oh, I'm here.
Yay. Well, thanks. Yeah, you're here and now we're saying bye. Doesn't seem fair, does it? We'll do it again.